Are the Dallas Mavericks feeling the pressure of potentially playing in the play-in tournament after getting drubbed by the Philadelphia 76ers 113-95? This is the gray area right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports on YouTube. The Dallas Mavericks sit at 29-24, seventh place in the Western Conference, currently still behind the Portland Trail Blazers. And after they got beat down by Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers, the Mavericks, in particular Luka Doncic, have been outspoken about the idea of a play-in tournament. Now, just to remind you about what the play-in tournament is, the 7th and 8th place teams play each other with the winner earning the 7th seed. The 9th and 10th place teams also play each other, with the loser eliminated from playoff contention. The loser of the 7-8 game and the winner of the 9-10 game then play with the 8th seed at stake. Currently, as it stands right now, the Dallas Mavericks are in the 7th seed and would be in such a play-in tournament, which could mean they could find themselves being eliminated in this play-in tournament situation. Luka Doncic apparently isn't feeling the idea of that particular play-in tournament. Here are his comments after the game about what's the point of a play-in tournament. Take a listen to this from Luka Doncic.
Hey, Luka, looking at Memphis coming up on Wednesday, how much at this time of year do you look at the playoff standings or pay attention to that or think about the prospect of the play-in?
I mean, obviously, we're trying to get this sixth seed. I understand the idea of playing. You play 72 games to get in the playoffs, and then maybe you lose 2 in a row and you're out of the playoffs. So I don't see the point of that. But we're just trying here to get to the 6th spot, and I think that's our goal right now.
Okay,
maybe even more than 6th spot.
So Luka Doncic saying, look, I don't see the point of a play-in tournament. Is he necessarily concerned? Not really. But at the same time, it appears that the Mavericks, in particular Doncic and Mark Cuban now, are very keenly aware of where they are in relation to what they have left with the rest of the 19 games left that they have in this season. A team now that's 29-24 with a game against Memphis coming up before they come home to take on the Sacramento Kings, the New York Knicks, the Detroit Pistons before hosting the Los Angeles Lakers for a couple of basketball games. Mark Cuban got on ESPN and made some comments to ESPN staff writer Tim McMahon about the idea of the play-in tournament and why it was quote-unquote an enormous mistake. And I quote, "The worst part of this approach is that it doubles the stress of the compressed schedule rather than playing for a playoff spot and being able to rest players as the standings become clear. Teams have to approach every game as a playoff game to either get into or stay in the top 6, or, since the consequences are enormous, so players are playing more games and more minutes in fewer days. In hindsight, this approach was an enormous mistake," end quote, from Mark Cuban, the Dallas Mavericks governor. That just tells you not only was this approach in Cuban's eyes a mistake, but more importantly, they are very keenly aware, especially Cuban and Mark and Luka Doncic, about what this season has been for them. An up and down, uneven season for a team that at one point was 9-14 in the Western Conference, 14th place, had lost 6 straight basketball games, and then in a 28-game stretch went 20-8. But since then, since recently winning 6 out of 7, they've lost 3 out of their last 4 with bad losses against the Houston Rockets and the San Antonio Spurs before getting the doors blown off of them at home against the Philadelphia 76ers. Now the pressure is squarely on this basketball team after 53 games that sees them at 29-24. We've talked about previously how well this team was playing on the defensive end. In a previous 15-game stretch, this was a top 5 defensive rating and offensive rating team in all of the NBA. Now, after losing 3 out of your last 4, the pressure continues to get ratcheted up for a Mavericks team that has been inconsistent at times this season. Well, you say, Kevin, this is also a team that has dealt with COVID situations, with serious amounts of games missed from guys like Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell, Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and the adversity that this team has had to overcome with respect to COVID. I get that. And since February 6th, this has been one of the better teams in all of the NBA. But at the same time, you put yourself in holes like this, where you find yourself 29-24 when you rest Kristaps Porzingis on the second night of a back-to-back, which we know the Mavericks have done quite a bit this season since he has returned to the lineup from his meniscus tear, is that they're going to rest him during periods of the season to give him the quote-unquote injury recovery that he needs so that he can continue to play forward, not just for this season, but obviously going into the future. But then you start looking at the games that Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis have sat in. They sat against the Oklahoma City Thunder, sat against the New Orleans Pelicans. Then you couple that with losses against the Houston Rockets and the San Antonio Spurs. And you've seen throughout the season the injury recovery and the load management, which is what it is, for both Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis at times punting on basketball games to the point where you now find yourself scratching and clawing, trying to get yourself in position to try and overtake a Portland Trailblazers team that's already won the season series against you. So now you've already put yourself in a bind given what you've gone through already in terms of the adversity of COVID and then overcoming that. Sitting guys like Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, you've dealt with injury concerns with guys like Maxi Kleber who have been dealing with knee soreness as of late, while other guys have missed games due to health and safety protocols, i.e. Willie Cauley-Stein and others. So this has been a turbulent season for a Mavericks team that had a lot of expectations coming into it, potential top 4 seed aspirations going into the season as far as the Western Conference is concerned, to now questions about whether or not this team will actually even make the playoffs given what has happened recently. You say, Kevin, just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about this team as a potential top 10 NBA contender as far as the Western Conference was concerned and potentially threatening as far as the playoffs were concerned. Yeah, we were. Because they were playing the kind of defense and offensively getting back to the team where they were a season ago, where they had historically the number 1 offensive rating in NBA history. That was the Mavericks team that we've been seeing. But then we've seen throughout points of this season, and now here more recently, against the Houston Rockets, against the San Antonio Spurs, playing down to their competition, which honestly is a mark of a team that's still maturing and growing. They've had mature wins and mature road trips like they did when they went 4-1 on that crucial 5-game road trip, their longest road trip of the second half of the season, where we started to get the idea that this team was moving in the right direction. But then you have some setbacks that now put you in a position where you have to grind these games out moving forward just to ensure yourself the idea that you can continue to move up in the Western Conference. Things are changing by the day, it seems like, with the West, because now Jamal Murray, who has now been ruled out for the rest of the season due to a torn ACL, really potentially shakes up the things as far as the Denver Nuggets are concerned. And yes, going into the Memphis game, the Dallas Mavericks have their shortest injury list and injury report that they've had in quite some time. Only Tyrell Terry is listed out due to personal reasons. So that means J.J. Redick, who made his debut against the Philadelphia 76ers, Kristaps Porzingis, who sat out the game due to injury recovery against the Sixers, they will be available, and everyone will be available for the first time in quite some time. So that's encouraging news, especially going forward when you've got a crucial set of home games coming up after you return home from Memphis, as I mentioned, against the Sacramento Kings, Detroit Pistons, New York Knicks, and also a couple of games against the Los Angeles Lakers. But this gets back to Mark Cuban and Luka Doncic. The same governor and Mark Cuban who voted unanimously along with the other governors in the league to have a play-in situation. I understand that the schedule has been compressed, averaging nearly 4 games a week for teams during the second half of the season. But this is what the NBA signed up for. This is what the NBA governor signed up for. And more importantly, this is what the players understood coming into the season. So don't cry wolf and cry foul now and be upset now because you're in a situation where your play-in chances are getting higher and higher by the day because of the inconsistency that you're placing on the basketball court. And then have your governor and Mark Cuban come behind you and echo those same sentiments when he was one of the ones who agreed that this was the kind of thing that would draw attention to the NBA in a compressed 72-game schedule and create the kind of intrigue and ratings that will allow casual fans to come in and watch this product. So for Mark Cuban to cry a foul now about what is going on with the play-in tournament and calling it an enormous mistake is a little bit of, fool's gold here. Mark Cuban knows better, and knows better than anybody, that the health of the league is dependent upon how many eyeballs are watching it. And one way to do so is to create play-in tournaments and create situations where teams have to continuously go for it. You saw the activity at the trade deadline with teams trying to put themselves in position to go for it, but also the nature and the compressed schedule means that if you're going to try and find yourselves making it into the playoffs, there's incentive for you to play your guys night in and night out and not sit guys. Because the more and more you sit guys, especially your best players, the less opportunity you're going to have to obviously make the playoffs. That is what the NBA was trying to do here in creating the incentive with the play-in tournament. Not only get more eyeballs on it in terms of ratings, but more importantly, create incentive for its teams to play its stars night in and night out. Yes, in a compressed schedule, but more importantly, to have the kind of product that fans would watch and create the intrigue going into the playoffs that allows teams to go for it night in and night out. That is why you have the play-in tournament. So for Luka Doncic and Mark Cuban, this is what y'all signed up for. Don't get upset now because you're in a situation where you may find yourself in the play-in tournament because you didn't necessarily handle your business during the regular season. That's your own fault. But at the same time, the Mavericks now have an opportunity going forward to make good on the court and, more importantly, get themselves in a position where they don't even have to worry about the play-in tournament. Otherwise, yeah, you should be concerned about being in the play-in tournament because this is not what you expected coming into the season, no matter how much adversity you've gone through. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Again, be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. This has been another episode of The Gray Area. We'll talk to you later. Peace.